Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. Uh, I want to take some time to introduce Ugyen. Ugyen has just launched Threads of the Future, AI weaving a new fashion narrative, and it has 3 different covers, and it's our first digital fashion magazine. So it is the Vogue of digital fashion, and it showcases incredible designers and their take on this month's theme. Ugyen is a prolific writer and demonstrated a history of working in media and print and marketing and advertising. And now she's taken her journalism into Web3 and digital fashion. And tonight she is going to talk about the threads of digital fashion and how we can all learn and be inspired by what's next. So take it away, Ugyen.
Thank you so much, Noreen, for a lovely introduction. Hello, everybody. And first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for DigiFashion for having me, giving me this platform, this opportunity to talk about our latest edition, Threads of Connectivity. So I'm very excited. Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much, Noreen. All right. So I'm just gonna basically what I'll be talking about is just talking through the journey of the latest creation, latest issue of Forward Fashion. And before I do that, I'll give you a brief background. I know Lauren also already gave me a really wonderful introduction. Even then, I still want to talk a little bit about the magazine itself, and then what we do, what our visions are, our values, and everything. So to just give you a few background, I am Ugyen Wangmo. Yes, I'm the founder and the editor-in-chief of a fashion magazine called Forward Fashion Toronto, and it is based out of Toronto in Canada. But even though it is based here in Canada now, because the magazine in terms of the way I curate my content, it's global. And now with the advent of digital technology, it's become even better for me to connect with everybody else from the rest of the world. So there's no boundaries set as to where a Forward Fashion can be read and how I can connect with people. And in that way, we have really opened up our venue and our platform as to how to connect with each other. So that's Forward Fashion. And initially we were just basically based only in North America because of the again, like I was talking about earlier, how there's the physical boundaries which stops us from certain points to reach to the rest of the world. But now, in the recent years, because of bringing the technology in, we are able to connect so much more widely. And yes, and I know the most interesting thing that we're talking about today would be basically AI. So that is the main theme of the topic that I've explored in my latest issue. It's called it is basically trying to embrace this new digital tapestry, which is the newfound possibility that AI has sort of presented to not just everybody, every industry. It's not just fashion industry. Fashion industry is one of them, and then we have every sector. Pretty much everyone has been sort of in a way affected with how this AI has given us a new tool to assist us with how we do our work, whether it be creativity, productivity, the way you create a content or journey or anything. And like everybody else, fashion is not left alone. So we are also very much a part of this growing trend. And I don't think it's just a trend. So it is something that it's going to be monumental for everybody else. It's going to be just revolutionize pretty much all the industry, and very much so for fashions, because that's my background. So I'll be speaking more so on the fashion industry, of course. All right, so that's the thing that we'll be talking about. And then moving on. So the latest issue, which was from cover to cover, everything else, the content was fully generated using AI. So when I say using AI, of course, at the end of the day, humans are the one who's curating what kind of content. You're telling the AI to do this and that. Is not like the AI is doing for us, but rather it is the human who is directing, and like, the AI to do it for us, and AI is just sort of an assistant, an additional tool, I would want to say, in a tool belt. Back then, the traditional fashion designing, you have your tool belt where you have your sewing machine, your scissors, like your threadings, your sewing machine. So that's the kind of tools that we're using earlier, the sketchbook, the pen, pencil, color. And now we have just another additional tool which is added onto a tool belt. So that is how AI was going to be another helping assistance to us. So we try and look at AI as a tool, as like an assistant, like a co-creator who sort of helps us accelerate our creativity. And so that's how we looked at AI in this current issue, and it's called Threads of Future, how AI is paving a path like into a new future. So, and what we have found as we're trying to curate this content is that it has so many aspects of how we can look at it as not someone who's trying to or replace our creativity or our ingenuity, but rather looking at us as like, how they are going to assist us to bring our creativity to a next level, to revolutionize how we think, to allow us, to give us possibility to think out of the box. Because early on, we were just thinking from our own point of view. Now, bringing the AI into us allows us to think beyond what we would able to. For instance, early on, I will be able to, let's say, I'm going to design a fall collection, and then I'll have a specific set of ideas and creative mindset that I have in my mind. But when I bring in AI, it allows us to think beyond that, because like now it is just not me who's thinking it. It's rather AI who's like sort of boosting my mental creativity, right? So it is pushing us out of the box. And that allows us to revolutionize how we design things, how we use materials, how we tell stories, how we curate stories. So it's not just designing, even the way you narrate story is different, right? It's like, for instance, maybe I would initially, I would just want to talk about like, cross culture, like bringing in different cultures together and just like sort of telling it in a new way. But now with AI, given the fact that it has all this data sets, it has also algorithms that they are all trained on. So that gives us, they are more knowledgeable than us in terms of like all the informations because basically they're learning informations, they're learning from the information which is already like there, and those are informations are made by humans. So the thing is, it's not made by just one human. I'll be aware, let's say I am here in Canada, I'm in Toronto right now, and then I know I will look at fashion and I'll have idea and concept which is only more like reflective of the society in that I live in, which is Toronto, right? And beyond that, I would be ignorant of, I'll be oblivious of what kind of culture, what kind of like values that are integrated into design. But now with AI, even though I'm not able to know that, the AI is already trained on that data set, and then they bring that into us, into like AI will make me aware of that, which I would not, it wouldn't have been possible before. And because of that additional information, now I'm able to think beyond what I was able to. So those are the kind of things I figure like we've like come across as we're curating the magazine. So that's why I thought it was a very exciting thing to be able to talk about it. And then also, like, if you look at it, you'll see like there's 3 different covers. So what I did with this cover is like I put out and call out for submission in terms of like the cover competition. So those were the 3 tops that we thought that really reflected, and they really stood in terms of how they were reflective of the theme, the vision that I had initially like thought out for the magazine. So since they are very reflective of the story that we we're planning to tell in terms of the theme that we chose, so I thought that they stood out in terms of that, and that's why we have them as the winner of the 3 covers. So that's why, depending on whether you prefer the first one, second, or third one, you have the options of getting any one of them. And also they're all digital version of it again, which is make it possible for everybody from all sorts of all parts of the world to be able to get it and read it and sort of really be inspired by it. Because I would say these are the pioneer creators, the pioneers who are leveraging on this, like the newfound skill that we didn't have before, to help elevate our creativity, help grow and go into just revolutionize or just evolve how we view fashion. But again, one important aspect that's been like kept at heart is that means like we're not never going to replace a traditional way of doing design. At the end of the day, the traditional way of creating content, the traditional way of designing, the traditional way of narrating stories, because at the end of the day, fashion is just a way of telling stories, which is reflective of the society that you're in right now. And AI is again is in with us in our society. So that's why fashion is just doing its known function, which is to tell the story, to be a part of the history. So that's what it's just doing. Since AI has become a part of our society, it's only fair that we are reflective of what's in our society. So that's what the main theme that we're trying to explore. Yes, and another thing that I would like to say is like forward still functions as the traditional function uh, as well as the AI version of it. So, but just what we do is not to confuse between the AI content where we use AI to uh, curate our content and tell a story, and where we just have the traditional way of telling a story. We have kept them separate, and that's why if you look at it, all the stories that we're telling, all the content that we're creating where we have the use of AI is called forward AI. Give me 1 second. I think I'll just have to show this. Um, I can't see this one. Give me 1 second. I need to look at this message. All right, got it. All right. Okay, sounds good. And the next one I would want to talk about is bridging technology with tradition. So that's what I thought AI really allowed us to do. Because right now, whatever content that we're creating, whatever designs that we are making, is all traditional way of doing. But now when we bring the technology, when I say technology, I'm talking more so about AI because that's the main focus of the presentation. We thought that it really allowed us to go into the realm of uncharted boundaries, which we were not able to forage into before. Before we were not able to go into that boundary. It was like not something which is possible for us. And then, so that's why I think like it just opens up like possibilities and doors of like so many things that we can try and like explore. So as long as, so what that AI has allowed us to do is, as long as you can imagine, the possibilities are just endless. So it's not just like uh, giving us that extra tools and the benefits of like the creativity, the concept and ideas to like not just tell stories, but tell it in such a way that it is very rich. It is like rich, it's very engaging, it's very like evocative. So in the sense like you're not just like listening to something, but when we bring that tool into our storytelling, it not just tells you a story, but also it tells you in such a way that is very emotionally provoking, in the sense that whoever is listening to it can actually not just hear it, but actually feel it. So that's why it allows us to, if you really know how to use it, it allows you to tell your story, to narrate your stories in such a way that it's very evocative. So that's another thing we found out. And another thing which is very important that I think was important for us to point out is that uh, the storytelling is not only is become more than being just a monologue. Earlier, when you tell somebody, it's like, for instance, I'm telling something right now, it's just a monologue, right? I'm just telling you. But with the bringing in of AI, it has sort of allowed us to open up the conversation. So that means you're telling something, but at the same time, it's not just you who's speaking. It's not a monologue, and it's a dialogue. It's a conversation between you and the listener. So it's allowed us to make it a conversation rather than being just a monologue. So it's become a dialogue, a discussion of not just the present moment that we are living in, but rather the past and the future. So when I say past, present, and the future, it's because, like, for instance, like, I'm here right now, I'm just telling you the story that I know from my present time and from a present current generation, the present society that I live in. But AI, since it has all the knowledge from the past, from long gone, let's say from like 1920s, like 18s, because those are the fashion stories that I will not be able to tell. But now I'm able to tell with the help of AI. They're able to go through all the status and give me those information, give me those knowledge, and like put it in my mouth, in my head, and I'm able to create that which I would not have been able, because I cannot travel back in time, nor can I travel forward in time or see the future. But rather, fashion has now been able to, like, sort of like, let's say, for instance, the trend forecasting. We are able to do that. Why? Because of, like, all the data sets, by trying to, like, um, see the relation, the statistic as to, like, how something is, like, moving, in which direction is it going, and based on that, the data set, because at the end of the day, AI is all over the data, all the information which is already out there in the world, and put that together, and that's what they are doing. They're consolidating that and giving it to us, and when we get that, now we're armed with all this creative, like, possibilities, and that's how we can be able to create a dialogue between the past, the present, and the future. And that, I think, is a very important benefit that we're getting by bridging the technology with tradition, with the help of AI. And another thing that needs a notable point out is the synergy of AI with fashion, which is, like, the whole time, I think that was the whole point I was trying to drive. It is not about like fashion, like the digital realm or the AI replacing our, like, our traditional way of doing fashion, or like it taking away our, like, creativity, or like taking away or replacing us, or nothing like that, but rather it is just sort of complementing our essence of, like, earlier in the fashion, like, uh, we were able to explore, we were able to express, but our way of expressing was limited, because it was we have so many boundaries that we are uh, have to we can't cross those boundaries. We have so many boundaries, we've got so many barriers, but those barriers are sort of now shifted, they're like gone, they're disappeared. Now we can just, like, sort of, it's become like a fluid where you can just, like, flow. We can flow from past to the present, to the present, to the future. So it's like the fluidity of, like, the boundary has allowed us to create content in a way, it's more expressive, uh, it's just more revolutionizing. And uh, and uh, the way we create content has, like, sort of changed in a way. One important thing is, like, fashion is very, it's always got a bad reputation for not being inclusive enough, not only in terms of your gender, body, race, culture, anything. So just in general, inclusivity has been really difficult. Again, I wouldn't say it's like bad on the part of the fashion either. It's just that, like, you are, like, for instance, I'm here in Canada. How can I be like, how can I have the idea and the concept and like the right to be able to include everyone? Because if I don't know that culture, if I don't know that society, because it will be wrong for me to represent and try and create a content thinking that, oh, I'm going to make it inclusive by just for the fact of making it inclusive, because I'm not really knowledgeable about that. So that's why I would say it will be wrong for me to try and include a different culture in my creativity when I don't know their culture, because I'm going to design in such a way, or I'm going to create in such a way that's not correct. And that's wrong. That would be an insult to that culture that I'm trying to represent. But now, what AI has done is like it's opened up this, like, the value, the knowledge. So that's why now, if I want to create, let's say I want to create like a design of fall jacket, which is inspired by Ukrainian culture and tradition. Early on, I didn't even know what it looked like unless I looked at a couple, like one or two images here and there. So that's why from that, I would not be able to draw an inference as to what kind of design I would want to go along with. But now, since there's so many informations on it, I can like uh, use the AI to be able to give me some sort of like to give me a starting point as to what it looks like, how it should look. And I should then again use the value of digital to like research and all those things. So because of all those tools, now I'm able to be a little more savvy as to how I can correctly represent that culture. So that's why inclusivity is one very important aspect of like bringing AI into fashion that has opened up our way to be able to be more inclusive, to be more globally representative. And another thing is the personalization. So it's allowed us to be more like to create a design which is more personalized, which is more personified. It is more individual rather than like mass. And also in terms of real world application, there are so many real world applications. Off the top of my head is sustainability. You know, um, early on, let's say, for instance, a fashion show. So, for a good example, the DigiFashion conference, like if this conference, it wouldn't have been possible. Just imagine me having to go through the logistic of having to travel all the way to Taipei, right? So that wouldn't have been possible without the advent of all this technology. Now, forget my travel resources, travel expenses, the amount of like, time resources. So now I'm able to do this and connect with everybody from, like, there's so many representatives, there's so many speakers from pretty much all around the world right now. And then we're able to do this without having to travel and be here. And that would be like your time, money, your like fuel consumption by flight, and it's a very, very unsustainable way of doing compared to how we're doing right now. So that's a perfect example. And in the same way, so that's why, like, in terms of fashion, there's a fashion show, the virtual fashion show. So that's why I would say synergy of AI with fashion has a real world application. And also, as I was creating as we were curating content, we did like gain good insights from the designers that we featured, or from the artists, the pioneers who helped us curate this content along with our own in-house curation. So one thing that I wanted to bring out is, so Alexandra Sarvan, she is one of our cover. So she is one of our cover contestant winner. And if you look at our cover, there's one cover where you have your AI along with a gorgeous model collaborating. So that's where they are like a friend. It's her vision was to show that they are like, they're not trying to replace each other, but rather they are collaborators, they are co-workers kind of thing. So that is the concept that she had. And then uh, as we're doing her feature, there was a couple of things which was very inspiring. And then I thought it would be nice to share her story. And her story, it was just, she said that when she ventured into AI, and that's when she found out how AI has allowed her to express her creativity, express her voice seamlessly. And there were so many challenges which has stopped her from really expressing, but in the end, because of that, she was able to do that. So that was another thing that I thought it was good to share. And another thing that I thought it was very worthwhile sharing was like, so this is he was also featured in a magazine for the current issue. And Emmanuel, he is a recent fashion graduate. And then you would think that being a recent graduate, he is a fashion recent graduate who went to a traditional fashion school. And then now he has really delved into fashion, creating fashion using AI. And one thing that he mentioned is like, you know, how sometimes people always talk about how AI is going to be the one who's going to replace us or anything like that, but rather a very good code, I think, needs worth mentioning is he mentioned that AI is more than a machine. It's an assistant, a creation tool where creativity is a key to making a difference in every field, right, including AI. And then he said the level of creativity reflects precisely on the user's proficiency. So that just goes to show that how, at the end of the day, it's not really the AI who is creating for you, but rather it's how proficient, how well savvy you are in terms of using AI is what's making all the more difference. So before I move on, how am I doing on time? Because I don't want to go over my talk limit. Am I okay with the time?
I think you're okay with the time. I think there's a like a few more minutes left. So, and if you want to have time for questions, but yeah, just go ahead. I know we started a little late, but you're doing a great job, and we're really enjoying.
Okay, because I just don't want to go. So how many more? How much more do I have left in terms of timing? Because I don't want to go over time.
Let me pull up the about 7 minutes on the for our block. So you still have some time.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Because like I would not want to like, you know, keep anyone waiting with me just blabbering on and on, because like, I can go on and on.
I love what you're doing, and I love what you're saying about human creativity and participating with AI as collaboration. The one thing that I was listening most to is that you have access to totality, right? Like all the history, AI has been trained on everything. So you're not just collaborating with one person, you're collaborating with a total of human experience that has been recorded and trained into these models. So that I think that that enhances our ability to be more creative, because in that dialogue you might be more inspired, back and forth by the prompts, and so yeah, I think that the collaboration between people and between AI is fascinating. So thank you so much. And yeah, so what let's keep going, and
all right, wonderful.
This time we'll have some questions.
Okay, sounds good. So moving on, so let's move on to the next one. So and also like talking about exploring, delving into a new like horizon. So you know how we always talk about the digital first approach. That has been has a very talked about conversation in fashion industry. So when we say digital first approach, it is like it's not just a buzzword anymore, I would say. It's sort of become a necessity. So why I would say it's become a necessity, at least from our own experience. So whatever I'm saying right now is from our own experience as we are curating our content threads of future. So we found that it allows us more room for innovation. And that would be just basically touching on what I've already mentioned, as to like it allowed us to like think beyond beyond the box, and like think about ways in ways we weren't able to do earlier on. So innovation is one thing which is like which has been allowed because of the digital first uh, capacity of bringing the digital technology into the fashion industry. And then we have the sustainability part of it, which was again what I just talked about. And then we have the democratization, which I think is very important to again briefly expand a little bit more on that, because like earlier when
And
we
I
think about
was just notified that we have actually 15 minutes because we started late. So you do have
okay,
more time.
wonderful, that's good.
Yes,
Okay,
let's
okay,
go.
that's good. Wonderful. Thank you, Lori. Noreen. Okay. So a democratization. So what happens earlier when we go into like a fashion industry? Fashion is something which is very hard to get into, because you need to be skillful. To be a fashion designer, you need to go to fashion designing school. You need to know how to draw. You need to understand the fabrics. You need to know how to sketch, how to sew. You need to know the technique. You have to have a lot of skills to be able to create something. And for instance, if you want to be a writer, you need to be able to be trained on all the history, fashion history. You need to go to the school and to learn the fashion history. And then if you want to go into fashion photography, you need to have the skills and like you need to know the lighting. You need to understand what it means to be a fashion editorial, and what it means to be a fashion portfolio, what it means to be just a fashion like a portrait. So you need to be able to understand all that in order to achieve a certain look, a certain like aesthetic. So that's why I think it was a very hard way to get into fashion industry unless you're like you had all the skills. But now with the AI, it has allowed, for me instance, I never went to a fashion school. I don't know how to stitch. I don't know how to cut. But now I'm able to design. So talking about designing, so under the Forward AI, we have recently launched our own in-house fashion brand as well, which is called Amos Loom. And now that is again a perfect example of how AI has allowed you to be a fashion designer. So that's allowed me to be a fashion designer. And now, depending on like what kind of creation I want, all I have to do is I need to be able to know how to use it. As long as I know how to use it, it is allowed to reflect the kind of creativity I want in the creation, and I'm able to actually get it. So that just goes to show that it is levels of playing fields for the fashion designers. So that's what I think is very important to understand, that it is like if you know how to like use it, you will know, you'll be surprised how much of a possibility it opens up for you. So that's what is done for us, at least for forward fashion. And I'm sure if you, it's not just me, I'm sure there's so many other more people who would like second my opinion.
I
And
second your opinion. I do feel I've been mostly upcycling, like I'm not a
right,
pattern maker or anything, but it does
right.
allow you to be able to do more or think more or think
Yes.
in different ways. It's
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. I really, really love what you're doing. So,
Thank you.
and I hope that
Thank
the
you.
magazine helps to inspire anyone who's here
Yeah.
and you know, uh, and it just like fashion magazines when I was a kid, you'd look at them and like, oh, but me and my mom would sit together and talk about the outfits and what we liked and what we didn't like. It was like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
fun thing when the fashion magazine came in the mail. And so it's,
Right, right.
it's just this is just an extension and allows people to dig deeper and be exposed to things and then be able to do it themselves. And that just makes it more creative and wonderful. So great job.
Thank you. And moving on, the next topic I want to talk a little bit about is the fashion inclusivity, which I think I've already talked. Yes, I think I already talked about fashion inclusivity, right? So yeah, so and on not only fashion inclusivity, because now it's like because of um, AI, I think I already talked about it. So now what I'll go a little bit beyond that is the aesthetic evolution. So when I say aesthetic evolution, what I'm trying to say is like early on, we're very limited in terms of the color palettes that we can use. Like there's only so many colors that we can try and experiment. In terms of the fabric, there's only so much fabric that we can experiment it. Now with AI, we're able to explore that beyond what we knew. Earlier, red, green, brown, yellow, that's it. Just to give an example. Now you bring yellow together with this, and that's something that we would not have thought about. And now with AI, just experimenting. So that's why I think, again, it really allows us to evolve aesthetically as well. So for instance, you know how there's so many like fidget, there's so many fashion designers where they try and get the inspiration from like trying to create their prototype using AI. And then when they do that, they get a set of color like palettes, which is not available in the real world. Now, when you see AI give you that kind of color palette, you choose amongst them and then you bring them to the real world. And then initially without the AI, we wouldn't have been aware of that, the color palette. Now, because of that, we can see that color palette is not just with the color palette, even with the texture, even with the cut and the shape. So that's why I think it's really helped us aesthetically evolve. So that I think is another important thing that we feel AI has given us. And again, cross culture, right? The cross pollination of designers. Earlier, if I design like a traditional dress from Bhutan, a traditional dress from Kenya. So now we can bring all those like a traditional dress from Taiwan, Taipei, Japan. So you bring all those like traditions. Then you pollinate them, cross pollination of those traditional aesthetics, and then it gives you something which is like just amazing, right? And then early on, even if I want to, I would not be able to do it because like I've only so much knowledge as to what the other culture looks like. For all you know, I would be completely ignorant or oblivious of an entirely very aesthetically pleasing culture that exists, but I'm so not aware of it. But AI is like trained on that data set and they'll bring it to us. And now you can all mix them together. So that's how hybridization of all those ideas and concepts and designs happen. And there you go. We have an aesthetically evolved fashion design and creation, which was not possible before. So
Wow.
and now another thing, again, going back to the digital first era. So again, digital, one of the benefits of the digital first era is the virtual vogue, right? So which is like the virtual avatars and the virtual runways. In the same way as I was giving an example, citing DigiFashion Week as the example. Now we have the virtual fashion shows, right? So earlier, because like during the virtual fashion show, I would say really sort of started during the time of pandemic when we were not able to be physically present. And that came out to be very handy. We were still able to have runways. We were still able to have fashion shows, even though we weren't able to be there physical. But then I think in the end, it ended up being it's better than the physical show because when we do a physical, think about the logistics, think about the production cost, the labor, the time, the stress, all this that comes into creating one grand show. I know it's not the same. Yes, it's not the same as the physical, but the benefit that you get out of it is like so much more, because you get the sustainability aspect of it. You are saving the time, and then the most important of all is the connectivity. The fashion
Mhm.
show happening in Paris can now be viewed globally. You're able to connect everybody else just for that one particular show. Early on, only those people who has enough time, enough money, enough resources to be able to go and be present for the show would be the part of that. And what about the rest of the world? What about us? What about me? Right? So that's why now with the this virtual fashion weeks, the virtual digital runways, you're just as like privileged to be a part of Paris Fashion Week as like everybody else. And now again, another thing is like one another thing that's very helpful has been for the designers. Let's say I have a full collection, but I don't have enough resources or enough money to like host an entire big grand fashion show. Well, who cares? What I have is I have my digital at my hand. Now, what I can do is I can host my own digital platform where I'll have my own digital runways. I won't have to worry about the money. I won't have to worry about people being there. All I have to do is just create that virtual fashion show, and there you go. You have your spectators, you have your buyers, you have your viewers, you've got everybody without having to physically travel, without having to think about all the logistic of getting there, bringing this, bringing that, the show, the lighting. So I think that has been a boon to us in terms of how we can use AI and how we can use digital. Because when I say the use of AI, that's where the AI comes in, the digital avatars. Digital avatars, again, is not just for digital runways. You know how avatars recently, avatars has allowed us to express our individual, try and experiment with us, try and experiment with certain clothes, because it has sort of given us an new identity, or like try and explore and experiment with our identities on the virtual world. In the physical world, just imagine, let's say, okay, today I want to try and see if I can, if how do I look as a punk girl, right? And tomorrow I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, let's see how I look like a, how do I look if I dress up like a flower girl? I don't think it will be possible for me to do that in my day-to-day life, because people will think that I've gone bonkers. They'll think that I'm going crazy, right? Does she
Right.
even have any sort of personality? No, I can't do that. But on the digital world, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and experiment what goes best, what works best for me, which is the best look that I'm able to express the most. Then I can experiment in the digital world, and then I can bring it back to my real world and then apply it in that way. I don't end up looking like a clown, right? So that's why I think it's opened up so many space for us to experiment with how we recognize ourselves, how we try and identify with our individuality. So that's another thing that I think was very important for us to realize. And yeah, and then also I do want to quickly mention, you know, as I was doing this content, something that really reflected well with the idea and the concept of avatar and like, you know, digital runway is one of our contributors for this current magazine, and she is Anya, and she is from Ukraine. And what she did is like we had like a in what we did is we did like a competition where the theme was the astrology, and that was a competition that Forward did in partnership with Fashion AI. And in partnership with Fashion AI, we created like we had like a couple of like designers who participated, and then those top three I had them featured in the magazine, and one of them was Anna. And what Anna did, and the theme of the challenge was astrology. Just imagine, like early on, we will not be able to really create something where we try and bring those astrologists into your design. Yes, you can, but like not at this like at this level. So, and also what she mentioned while she was creating and when she was sharing her creative journey was like she was able to express, you know, herself in that digital like realm, and then she was able to experiment with herself. So I think that reflected really well with the idea and the concept of avatar and digital runways. So that's why I wanted to mention her. And then, yeah, so that takes us into the future of the narratives. So the future of the fashion narratives is nothing like we have right now. But of course, one important thing that we always try and value is a traditional way of saying stuff. Like when I say saying telling our stories, narrating a story, or the traditional way of creating our content, or like our skills, our crafts. Those are never going to be gone. Those are going to be there, but they will be enhanced. That is the that is, I think, something that we really need to be really aware of. That we need to be really keep in mind is like our traditional way of like telling stories, our traditional way of designing is never going to go anywhere. It's just that how we do it is just going to be enhanced. It's just going to be like, more seamless. It's going to just take us to the next level. It's just like building on what we already know. So I think that's what I think our future of fashion narrative is pretty much going to be like. It's going to be innovative, it's going to be globally inclusive, and it's going to be endless exploration. Again, our tagline, as long as you can imagine, the possibilities are endless. So that's what AI brings to us, possibilities of endless imagination and possibilities in endless, like, creativity, endless storytelling, endless content creation. And then another thing is not, it's the storytelling is never going to be a monologue. It's always going to be a dialogue. It's always going to be a conversation where everybody is involved. It's not just me involved in this. So this is a perfect example. The issue itself, the threats of connectivity is a perfect example of how it is not just of forward fashion telling the story or curating the content, but it is where we have all the communities, all the like AI enthusiasts, AI pioneers telling stories. So it was more a dialogue than just a monologue. So it was all collaboration. So it is, so when I say dialogue, it's basically the collaborative discourse, right? So again, just me creating AI content is not going to do any change. It's just you doing something is not going to get any change. So it's all about us coming together. Like, for instance, the DigiFashion, who is doing a great job of bringing all of us together. Because like without DigiFashion, I would never have been able to connect with Noreen. So now I know Noreen, and I know all the other speakers. Why? Because of DigiFashion. And DigiFashion is possible because of the newfound digital technology. So I think those are all the pathways that we're going through. We're just growing, we're getting globally connected, we're innovating, we're aesthetically revolutionizing. So basically, we're just growing. And the old traditions are still staying, and that old tradition is just getting more and more enhanced. And then again, yes. Oh, sorry. I do want to thank. Like this are a couple of the beautiful, gorgeous faces of my contributors, and also those are just so many contributors. I can put it on one slide. There's many more, and I just put them on here. So because when we embark on this journey, it's not a single journey. It's a collaborative process. It's just not me. It's not just forward. It's not just like It is all of us come together. Without the community, I don't think Threads of Future would have ever been possible. It's been possible just because of all the people who were involved in it, because of everybody else who gave me their thought process, their creativity, their creation. So that's how we were able to create what we had. And am I running out of time?
Well, we're very close, but just you have a few more slides. We're gonna finish.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so
yes, it's just let's keep going, and
okay, sounds good.
we're very involved in what you're saying.
Okay, sounds good. All right, the last bit I want to do talk about is, for every good, there's always going to be a bad, right? So that's what this is, a little bit of us touching on what are the challenges and concerns that we do need to have, like, keep in mind, because, I was talking about how AI is trained on so many data sets, but again, we need to do understand that sometimes the data sets might be slightly biased. So that's another thing that we need to be cognizant of. And then also, like, sometimes uh, if we are not careful as to how we use it, you know we might end up losing the personal touch. But again, like, I quoted one of our contributors, the young designer, who said that, like, the proficiency of what you create is all in your hand, right? It's not the AI, but rather how you use it is what makes all the difference. So as long as you remember that, and as long as you control what you create, and as long as you control the AI to create your vision, I think we will be able to keep in touch with our personal, like, our real, like, human touch, which is very important. And again, another thing is that data privacy. I know there's so many ethical considerations that we need to go into, but I'm not an expert in ethical consideration, the ethical aspects of all those things. So that's why I won't go much into it. But I just wanted to point out, still, those are the issues that we are facing as we are, because AI is still a newfound tool, right? So it's understandable for anyone to be, like, to come across those kind of issues, because, like, we learn, right? When something is new, it always comes with problems, and it's not foolproof perfect. So as we go, as we grow, as we develop, we learn, and then we try and cross correct all those, like, problems that comes inside, along with it. So that's how we do along with that. So I think it's just going to be progressing. As we progress, the problems will come on, then we'll just keep on, learning how to mitigate it, learning how to address them. And that would be another like learning curve as well. Just like how trying to use those new tools is a learning curve, just like that, the problems that comes along with it is going to be a learning curve as to how to mitigate those problems. So I think, again, to be able to tackle this problem is not a single person's journey either. Just like how to create is, how to use it is not a single person journey. In the same way, to tackle those problems, to work to go together is very important. So it's going to be a collaborative, like a team uh, journey as well. So that's, I think, a very important thing that we need to be concerned about when we're talking about the goods. With every good, there's always going to be evil. So that's how the balance is is maintained. And then, yeah. So I think what I
Right.
would do want to say is, like, still keep on connecting. So just if anybody is interested in, like, still connecting with Ford, I have put out my website and my contact email address and our social media, because together, how we go towards tomorrow, because it's not just me who's going to tomorrow, it's all of us together, and together towards tomorrow we go, right? All right. And then, yeah, so as a gratitude for giving us this platform to share our creative journey, for bringing this content,